You're welcome back. If you're just tuned in, tonight we're talking about the Lekki-Ajah Road rehabilitation. And we're asking, is this the smartest timing the government can actually come up with? Or is this an economic mistake? Let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation by sending an SMS or WhatsApp to 0818-038-4663. Also, our phone lines are open. You can call on 070-2500-7749 and also on 0701-4242-420. Let's hear what you have to say. Now, this conversation, around this road repairs continues to stir a lot of reactions across Lagos, right? Especially as this particular project coincides with the busiest social and commercial period of the year. This corridor is not just a road, it is, what do I call it? It is the lifeline that feeds Lagos entertainment scene, that feeds Lagos hospitality industry, retail businesses, tech hubs, estates, daily commuters, because yes, there's a lot of movement that would happen around this time. And with these lane closures and diversions already creating longer travel times, if you leave on the axis, this Lekki to Ajah axis. In fact, if you live on the island, scratch that. If you even live on the mainland and you walk on the island, you know that traffic has become our middle names, right? It's something you go through. It's like a ritual. It's like part of your ritual to actually get into work. If you live in Lagos, you know this. If you're leaving your house and you want to get to somewhere, you're factoring in traffic time, stipulated time for traffic. Is that bad? So imagine when one lane of the road is closed, right? We really don't know what to expect. So with these lane closures, right? I mean, diversion's already creating longer travel times. Many people are afraid that this year's Christmas celebration, from weddings to concerts. I mean, we have a lot of concerts coming up. I think Davido's concert is when? There's a lot of concerts, right? People want to have beach hangouts, nightlife, tourism. These things will lose. There's a very high tendency, that they will lose their usual vibrancy. Now, transportation cost is another thing we're going to talk about, right? Delivery delays. Dispatch riders are already showing us a lot of things. So imagine now you order something and before your delivery arrives, the delays are already more frequent. And businesses along, these axes are very worried about losing the seasonal revenue that they rely on to stay afloat. And while the state government insists that the long-term benefits would outweigh this short-term discomfort, the reality is that thousands of residents and business owners are bracing up for a very, very challenging festive season. You know, so tonight we're asking very critical questions. We want to understand this, and if possible, we want to plead with the government. Well, if we are made to understand the reasons, in the course of this show, that's okay. But if not, we want to also on this show plead with the government. So we're asking, how severe, you know, will the economic impact be? Will this, disruptions cripple Christmas commerce? Because I'm wondering, right, what commerce is going to look like. Or do you think Lagos can find a balance between repair and revenue? Anyway, I have with me Professor Simeon Nna, a public affairs analyst, to join us in this conversation and help us understand some of these questions and developments. Good evening, sir, and welcome to the show.
Evening, and thank you for having me.
Great, great. Thank you for joining us. Now let's quickly get into this conversation, Prof. So now, according to research, right, Lagos reported about a little over $71 million in revenue during 2024 dirty December, right? I dare say
Yeah,
that this is the peak of revenue generation for Lagos, right? And now,
yeah.
out of that 71, $44 million came from hotels and about 13 million came from short-let apartments. Now, given that, how critical is this Lekki-Ajah corridor to sustaining this level of high season tourism income?
Well, the Lekki-Ajah axis, as you rightly pointed out, is one of the major axes that you can think of in Lagos
Mm-hmm.
in terms of traffic.
Right.
Um, because some of us apply that route once in a while.
Mm.
When there is no problem, we normally, make out time for hold-ups, traffic hold-ups, and what have
Exactly.
you. But right now that the problem is going to be compounded, I don't know how Lagos is going to manage. The timing, like you said, is very, very wrong. And you said it's going to last for 8 months, right? Did I hear you right?
Yes, 8 months.
Okay, now, if it's going to last for 8 months, it's going to take off the Christmas period and the Easter period.
Right.
And these are two peak periods in Lagos that, businesses thrive, commerce thrive. And some of these hospitality industry, they make a big, cash, it's a boom for them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you take those periods out, it's going to affect the economy of Lagos seriously. That's the IGR. It's going to
Yeah.
affect the IGR seriously because most of the big companies are on that axis.
Right.
And most of the big men equally live in that axis. So it's going to affect a lot of businesses. The only thing is that, well, people are going to be doing some of their transactions online
Mm.
because you can start a journey and you will not end it at the end of the day. So you'll be missing so many appointments. So most engagements now will be done online. That's the only way out because the route is going to cause a lot of havoc.
Mm.
One would have expected that the government would have chosen a time that is not peak period for business
Mm.
and peak period for holidays for such things to be done. And in Senate lands, what government do is that most of these things are done in the nights so that people can move freely in the daytime. However, the security situation in the country is another problem.
Mm.
So when you advise that, government will come out to tell you that the security challenges will not allow that to happen, as if it's you and I that will secure the state.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
The Constitution says that the primary uh, uh, job of government is to secure the lives and properties of the citizens.
Mm-hmm.
So if they come up with that issue, are they telling me that I'm supposed to secure myself and pay taxes? So at the end of the day, it's neither here nor there.
Mm.
Without the security situation, what some of us would have advocated is that these engineers should work more in the night so
Mm.
that in the daytime people can make their trips and get home on time or
Mm.
get to their various offices on time. Some people live in the mainland and work in that axis.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you see people getting to the office by 10 or 11. However, I know that what is going to happen, because I've seen it happen in Lagos before, is that people that work in that axis are from the mainland will go to work on Monday and will not get back home until Friday.
Right.
So they take their change dress in the morning. They just go to the bath and take their bath and change clothes and report to the office. That's the only way out.
Mm.
Because if you are moving from mainland to that axis in the morning, because a lot of people come to work in that axis from the mainland, it's
Mm-hmm.
not going to work this time around, except you want to get to the office by 10, 11, 12.
Mm. I mean, it's really a sad one, Prof. But let's talk about transportation costs,
Yeah.
especially regarding, especially with this road work that is about to start, right? What are we expecting? Of course, we know that there's going to be some sort of increment, but what are we expecting, especially now, not just the transportation cost, also the
Yeah.
pricing of these hotels, the costing that event organizers would give, the shortlet, everything, right? Potentially. Don't you think it will hurt the margins and by extension the state's IGR, especially from tourism?
Yeah, I said it earlier succinctly that the state IGR will be drastically
Right.
affected,
Mm-hmm.
and those shortlets are more in that axis than in the mainland. You will agree with me.
Mm.
We have flush outlets, maybe in Ikeja, areas like Ikeja. And many of those outlets are in that axis.
Mm-hmm.
So, and because of the transport costs and the difficulty in assessing the area this period,
Mm-hmm.
some of them that are economic wise might reduce their charges. However, remember that this is Christmas period.
Yeah.
Christmas period is a period where prices of things skyrocket just for people to make quick cash.
Mm-hmm.
And the transporters themselves cash in on the rush this period to make brisk business. Now, if you add the traffic congestion with the cost of transportation during the Xmas period, you'll discover that the commuters this period will be praying through their nose.
I know.
And that's why I said earlier that people that are in the island working in that axis might be going to office on Monday and they will not return until Friday.
Mm.
Because I know it happens in Lagos a lot. So, and this time around, they are going to be compelled to do that. Because if you don't want to do that, it means you don't want to work. And maybe some organizations might decide to, what do you call it now? Share the work hours.
Mm.
Or some people will work on Monday, Tuesday, others will work Wednesday, Thursday, and so that the transport costs will be minimized. That is organizations that have conscience.
Mm-hmm.
But for private businesses that don't have conscience, they will tell you how to manage, no matter the way you do it. Even if you are take-home pay, takes you to the bus stop and leaves you there. That's your business.
Okay. Okay, but then again, Prof, what does this show or say about the Lagos State government priority setting? What does it say about their, consideration culture?
When people get into government, not Lagos alone, now
Mm.
we have seen it play out. Now, when people get into government, they forget where they are coming from.
Mm.
And people will be saying that their advisors are not telling them the right thing. And the question I normally ask, where were they before they got into those offices? Didn't they know some of these things before they got there? Don't they listen to news? Don't they read papers? Some of these things are out there. So it's a no-brainer for somebody to come and tell me that they don't know what is going on. Who said so? That they don't know what is going on. They don't have time to watch tele, even when they are eating. At least they should listen to one news or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And they shouldn't just rely on what their aides will tell them, because their aides at times are bootlickers. They want to tell them what they would like to hear. Because if you are telling them what they don't want to hear, they will not be happy with you. So what they will always do is to tell them what they want to hear. Everything is okay, the economy is booming, and people are happy with the administration when people are gnashing their teeth. So at times, I will advise public office holders, at times, move around and see things for yourself. Don't just rely on hearsay,
Mm.
because what I will call beer parlor discussions. Because some of these aides, that's what they do. They just come and paint rosy pictures when actually there are thorns everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand. So government should place feel the pulse of the people before they do anything they want to do. The Lagos state government should look at this situation again and see what they can do. Maybe it will not be every day of the week
Mm.
that the workers will work.
Mm-hmm.
They choose some days of the week so that life will be made easier.
Yeah.
But if you do 7 days, 12 hours, there will be serious crisis in Lagos. I can tell you that for free. I can go to the bank with it.
All right. Let's also move on to this angle. Now, Nigeria, Lagos, we have this culture of, this history rather of extending timelines, deadlines that we give. Now, he has told us 8 months. So by the 15th of July, this project should be completed. What accountability mechanisms should we put in place? Let's assume that, oh, he doesn't want to, he's not heeding to what the public is saying. He thinks this is the right thing to do. What accountability mechanism should we put in place to actually, prevent deadline overruns, especially regarding this particular project?
Well, in projects, when you have time overruns, there are a lot of factors that
Mm,
leads to time overrun. One of the major problems is funding. Now, there are milestones, and government and the contractor should agree on those
mm,
milestones. That when we get to this percentage of the project, this amount will be given.
right.
Now, these days, in those days, you do variation after some time, but a recent project management projects, it's advisable for you to impute your inflation costs in the project so that you will not come back and say there are variations and what have you. Because these are the things that cause delay. For instance, you start a project and let me use a particular, the cement, which is common. Um, you are buying at the cost of 10,000. I'm using a hypothetical figure now. That's not the price in the market. Now, by the time you get halfway, the price has increased to 15,000. You know that the cost of that project will be higher than what you budgeted. So in so doing, you'll see some people abandoning their projects because they cannot finish with the money they asked for. Now, there are equally some contractors that once they get that money, they start buying cars and start living a seditious living without going into the project proper. So, what if you want that project to end at the right time and there will not be time overrun or cost overrun? What the government should do is there will be strict monitoring, and those milestones will be followed. From this month to this month, you are supposed to get to this mileage, and then it will be followed strictly, and there will be strict supervision that these things are done. Otherwise, there will be time overrun and there will be cost overrun. And once that is done, the project is a failure. Because at the end of the day, they might not be able to execute that project to the letter.
We go on a short break, and then when we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Please stay with us.
Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population and with little or no meaningful engagement leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change, both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.
Welcome back. We are still talking about the Lekki-Ajah Access Road Rehabilitation. And I have Professor Simeon Na, who is helping us understand the implications of this particular decision by the government. Prof, thank you so much for still being with us. Now, I want to go towards
Welcome.
the risk management aspect. A lot of people have cried out and said, "Oh, even if you're going to do this," which I think is a fair plea. If you're going to do this, at least give us alternative, roads. For instance, the coastal road, right, to truly help absorb this diversion and everything. What would you say to that, sir?
I think that's a legitimate request. There must be roads, access roads that will help people get to their venue or their offices on time, because you cannot block the road and use only one lane. It's going to cause a whole lot of bottleneck in Lagos, where commuters drive anyhow. No, 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 no. These public transport drivers, if you drive in Lagos, you see how rascally they are. Although we know that the first lesson in driving is that every other driver is a madman. In fact, yes, that's the first lesson. If you went to a driving school,
Right.
that's the first thing they will tell you. So when you see a car approaching, you caution yourself, another madman is coming. So you now begin to paddle your own canoe, because you have to drive your own vehicle and drive that of the incoming vehicle and the ones by your side, even the one behind you. You have to manage all of them. And with the rascality of these transport vehicles, and you know, restricting people now to one lane is going to cause a whole lot of problem. The gridlock is not something you can imagine. You can be on a spot for over 1 hour. I can tell you that because I've seen it happen. Now, so what government should do is to find alternative routes that people should use to get to their destination. And if the coastal lines are okay for people to use now, those roads could be open for people to use for the meantime. And like I said earlier, they could equally mention some days of the week that the workers will not occupy the road.
Right.
But however, that might not be very visible, because if you do it that way, they might damage the area that has
Already
already been
constructed.
done. So that's why that will not be a good option. It might not be a good option. So the only option here is that the government should find alternative routes that people should use to, access wherever they are going to, and ensure that people, the workers themselves, the engineers that are working on that road, will follow all the timelines and finish as scheduled. Otherwise, they will create more problems for the economy.
Let's come to the area of real estate, right? Some of the real estate analysts, of course, they've predicted a temporary slowdown in demand, of course. But now, how might this affect developers and
Of course.
investors in the short term? What are we expecting to see, especially when it comes to investor confidence? What are we expecting in this short period of time?
No, this period, people are not going to be making demands for houses in that area. However, the ones that have already made part payments, we have no choice than to complete whatever cost that is left. But for new clients, this period is not a very good period for the business owners. But it might be a very good period for people that want to acquire property there, because if you have a good bargaining power, you can use that bargaining power to get a cheaper place. Because you are going to put it on the ground that, look, people are no longer coming to these areas because of the roads, the traffic on the roads. So that might be a point for somebody who wants to acquire a property in that area to get it at a cheaper rate. Recall that one of the things that increased cost of housing in Lagos, in other cities, is good road network, electricity, and water.
Right.
Once you have these things in place, then the cost of buildings in that area go up. I recall when, during the time of Ambody, when he opened the hinterlands, the Baga area and what have you of Lagos in the Alimosho, you now discover that land that were going for 1-2 million just jumped up to 15-20 million because they now have good access roads and they now have electricity. So these are the things that help. But when the road now is not passable, you can spend the whole day on the road without getting to your destination. In fact, some people make a U-turn because when they get to a point and they cannot continue, and they see that it's easier to make a U-turn and go back, some will make a U-turn and go back. So it's going to affect the real estate business for the business owners. But for people who want to acquire houses during this period, if they have negotiating powers, this is the right time for them to do that because they're going to get it cheaper. Yes.
But finally, Prof, before I let you go, what incentives do you think the government can put in place right now to help cushion the adverse effects this is going to be having on both commuters, residents, businesses in this axis?
That is a tough order. I don't know what incentive government can give you because if it's where things are done properly, because if it's somewhere like UK or some other countries in Europe, now what people will do now is to abandon their vehicles and use government vehicle. But you know that in those areas, there's no way they can shut down a road for that period, for that period. It's not possible. It's not possible because they are not thinking of road infrastructure now in their clan. It's only in Africa that we're still using that as electoral campaign tools. They've gone past that level. However, the only incentive they would have given is to ask people to use government buses. So government will deploy more buses to that axis, and now people will, the blue buses are okay, anybody can use it. Because although some of them are going bad now, when they came initially, there were they were air conditioned and a lot of things, involved. So government could tell people to abandon their vehicles and use the government buses. And if they are doing that, they must ensure that there are enough buses to ply that route. So that a lot of people...
But can these... Yeah, I was going to ask. These buses, they are good, of course, good alternatives. But look at the population of Lagosians. See how much people we have in Lagos. Do we have that that number?
Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do we have that number of buses? I can barely count how many BRT buses I've seen, ever since I started living here, right? And then we still have a lot of people trooping. And then also, I think a lot of people embrace these regular yellow buses because they seem faster, especially for those that have timelines to get to work and all of that. So how is that supposed to work now?
Now, you see, that's what we say, that before you do some of those things, there must be proper planning. There must be proper planning. I think government is not doing enough. Government is not doing enough. Because if government is actually doing enough, what should happen is that these buses would have been in place before now. And if the buses in place before now, government would have gone ahead to tell people that, look, you can use the blue buses and I'll go to the places you want to go. See, in UK that I know too well, those buses have time they come and they have time they get to their destination. And once it's that time, you see the bus in front of you and you join. So if we want to do something, we can achieve that in this country. We can if we want to do that. And they say the number of people that are, in Lagos. Well, yes, we have good number of people in Lagos, but that equally means more revenue for government. Because if these things are done properly and government manages it well, it's big revenue for government. It's big revenue for government. So I don't know why they are not, because the blue buses they bought, maintenance culture is a very big issue in Nigeria.
It is. It
Because
really is.
with what they are charging, they are supposed to maintain those buses. And recall that they cannot talk of theft because you buy cards and those things, that the money go direct to government. So they are actually making enough money to maintain those buses. So getting additional buses will not be an issue. But in this part of the world, I don't know what happens to us, that we are not doing the right thing and we're not doing things right.
Anyway, this is where we draw the curtains tonight. Thank you so much, Prof, for adding your quota to this conversation. We really, really do hope that the government would have a change of heart, or better still, give us alternative routes to ply during these 8 months. Because if not, it's going to be really tough, like you said. And we also plead with employers of labor, right? Companies in these axes, to embrace hybrid work. If not, a lot of people would suffer. That you're going to have to lay off a lot of people too, because it's in conditions like this you really can't help yourself. All right, thank you so much, Prof, again, and do have a lovely weekend. Now, we've seen that tonight's conversation highlights a delicate balance, right? Lagos, yes, we need the repairs, but the timing risks undermining the heartbeat of its seasonal economy. Christmas in Lagos is more than a celebration. I can tell you for a fact, you can take it to the bank, Lagos has the best, Christmas anywhere, right? Because there's a lot. People virtually come from foreign countries to experience Lagos Christmas. So it's beyond celebration. It's commerce, it's money, it's tourism, it's employment. It's the peak revenue window for countless small businesses, for entertainers, hoteliers, restaurants, event planners, name it. Even transport operators now. Now, so as the state embarks on this rather important project, we demand transparency, we demand speed. Communication and alternative route management must be taken seriously, because if the disruptions deepen, the economic consequences could extend far beyond festivities and linger well into the new year. So we really need to find a balance to these things. Let there be a lot of incentives to mitigate, cushion the effects, the implications this is going to have. Because, to be very honest, it's going to take a toll on the entire populace here in Lagos. Anyway, that's what we can take for tonight. Before we go, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV. Drop a comment, like, share, follow us all across our social media platforms. And if you missed our quote earlier, here it is. It says, infrastructure repairs are costly, but neglect is far more expensive. And this was said by World Bank Urban Transport Unit. My name is Choma Kalu, and this has been Waste Prime Time. Do have a good night, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.